The story of Phoebe Bishop begins in a place that seemed far removed from the chaos of the world. Her town was small, calm, and tightly connected, where neighbors greeted each other by name and doors were rarely locked. It was the kind of community where people felt safe, where children played outside without fear, and where crime was something often heard about elsewhere, never at home. Phoebe grew up surrounded by this sense of comfort, and it gave her life a rhythm of peace and trust. People knew her as kind, gentle, and full of life, a young woman who carried hope for the future. But beneath the surface of this quiet setting, dark currents began to stir. What no one could imagine was that this same place of safety would soon be shaken to its core. The silence of the town would not last forever. Behind closed doors, secrets lingered, and shadows grew longer. The events that followed would not only claim the life of Phoebe Bishop, but also destroy the innocence of a community that believed it was untouched by tragedy. Phoebe's life, Phoebe Bishop, was more than just a name in a tragic story. She was a daughter, a friend, and someone who carried warmth wherever she went. Those who knew her often spoke about her bright smile and how she had the ability to make even the darkest days feel lighter. She lived with dreams that stretched beyond the boundaries of her quiet town. And yet she loved the simple things that made life meaningful. Long talks with friends, helping her family, and enjoying the familiar comfort of her community. Phoebe's life was not perfect, but she faced her struggles with determination and a quiet strength that people admired. She was described as a person who would listen without judgment, who offered kindness without expecting anything in return. These qualities made her stand out in a place where everyone thought they understood each other well. But, as much as people thought they knew her, there were still parts of her life hidden from view, moments and choices that only she carried with her. These details, small at first, would later become threads in the larger mystery. In remembering Phoebe's life, one can see not only the joy she brought to others, but also the tragedy of how quickly that life was taken away. The night of horror, the night that changed everything, began like so many others in the quiet town. Streets were calm, the air cool, and life moved with its usual peace. Phoebe Bishop was last seen carrying on with her normal routine, unaware that danger was waiting close by. The hours slipped into darkness, and with them came an unease that no one could explain. Neighbors later recalled hearing unusual sounds, faint echoes that seemed out of place in a town so silent. By the time morning arrived, whispers began to spread. Phoebe had not returned home, and the people who loved her knew something was wrong. Fear quickly replaced the sense of safety the community had always known. What followed was a discovery that no one in the town would ever forget. Phoebe was found lifeless, her body bearing the signs of violence that shocked even seasoned investigators. The safe streets were now crime scenes, and the trust that once held the town together began to crumble. The night of horror was not only the end of Phoebe's life, but also the end of innocence for a place that thought such darkness could never reach them. It marked the beginning of questions, suspicion, and grief that would haunt the community forever. First suspicions after the discovery of Phoebe Bishop's body, fear swept through the town, but fear quickly turned into suspicion. People began to look at each other differently, questioning what they thought they knew about their neighbors. Who could have done something so cruel in a place where everyone claimed to be close? At first, the focus was on strangers, outsiders who might have passed through, but soon investigators realized the answers could lie much closer to home. Friends and acquaintances were questioned, every detail of Phoebe's final hours examined for clues. Whispers filled the streets. Some believed it had to be someone she trusted, someone who knew her well enough to get close without raising alarm. For the first time, the warmth of the community turned cold as rumors spread and doubts grew stronger. Families who once shared meals together now kept their doors shut, wary of what might be hidden behind another's smile. In those early days, suspicion was everywhere, but clear answers were nowhere to be found. The sense of betrayal was heavy, because if the killer was not an outsider, then it meant that one of their own had shattered the peace of the town forever. The investigation into the murder of Pheobe Bishop, began with urgency and pressure. Detectives knew that every hour mattered, and the community demanded answers. They combed through the crime scene, searching for anything that could explain who had taken Pheobe's life. Small pieces of evidence, a footprint, a trace of fabric, and the position of her body were all studied carefully. Police interviewed friends, family, and anyone who had crossed her path in the days before her death. At first, the evidence felt scattered, like a puzzle missing its key pieces. Still, investigators pushed forward, building timelines and rechecking LOBs. The weight of the case grew heavier as media attention reached the town, shining a spotlight on a community already shaken by grief. Detectives worked late into the night, following every lead no matter how small. Slowly, patterns began to form, and connections that once seemed harmless started to look suspicious, and names that were once trusted became subjects of doubt. The investigation not only aimed to bring justice for Pheobe, but also to restore safety to a town that no longer felt safe. Each discovery brought them closer to the truth, but also deeper into a web of secrets no one expected to uncover. Shocking evidence. As investigators pressed deeper into Pheobe Bishop's case, the pieces of the puzzle finally began to reveal a darker picture. What seemed like a senseless act of violence started to show signs of careful planning. Among the most shocking discoveries was evidence that pointed directly to someone close to her. Forensic teams uncovered fingerprints and personal items linked to the crime, details too precise to ignore. Phone records exposed late-night calls and secret meetings that suggested Pheobe may have been entangled in something more complex than anyone had believed. Even her diary, once thought of as private and innocent, revealed hints of fear and mistrust toward someone she knew. The town was stunned as these findings came to light, because they shattered the image of safety that had defined their community. Every new piece of evidence stripped away the idea of random chance and replaced it with the chilling certainty that her killer had been near all along. The shock was not only in what was found, but in the realization that trust had been betrayed in the most brutal way. The case was no longer about speculation. It had become a direct path toward uncovering the person responsible.